everyone, and welcome to another video on our own devices. I'm Jean Messier, and so far on this channel I've covered quite a few devices from the Second World War, but these have all tended to be military equipment such as small arms, gun sights, artillery pieces, aircraft navigation instruments, things of that sort. Today, however, we're going to be turning our attention to the home front. This is a stocking stick made by Sun Valley Tan of Des Moines, Iowa, and this is a fascinating relic of a short-lived trend where, due to wartime material shortages, women took to replacing physical stockings or hosiery with painted-on simulations. Now, in the early 20th century, women's stockings were typically made of one of two materials, natural silk or rayon, aka viscose, made by chemically altering cellulose from wood or cotton with either cuprammonium or a mixture of carbon disulfide and a strong alkali. The commercial process for producing rayon was developed in 1894 by British chemists Charles Cross, Edward Bevan, and Clayton Beadle, and rayon fiber products first marketed in 1905. Then, in 1935, chemist Wallace Carruthers, working at DuPont in Wilmington, Delaware, discovered how to react hexamethylene diamine and adipic acid to produce an even more resilient, purely artificial fiber, initially known simply as Polymer 66, but soon given the more iconic name of nylon. And in case you're wondering, the name nylon was derived from the phrase no run, as nylon stockings were more resistant to wrinkles and runs than those made of silk and rayon. DuPont immediately capitalized on its new discovery, first exhibiting nylon stockings at the 1939 New York's World Fair and Golden Gate International Exposition in San Francisco. The first limited batch of 4,000 hit the shelves in Wilmington on October 24, 1939, selling out within 3 hours, followed by an official national launch on May 15, 1940. Advertised as being strong as steel, impervious to moths, run-resistant, and easy to wash, nylon stockings were phenomenally popular despite costing more than twice as much as traditional silk or rayon stockings. Now, unfortunately, this craze didn't last very long because in 1941, Britain introduced cloth rationing in order to free up material for wartime use, and the United States followed suit soon after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. And this led to a massive panic-buying spree on February 14, 1942, today known as Nylon Day, in which some 4 million pairs of nylons were sold. The following day, newly manufactured nylons disappeared from store shelves as DuPont retooled its manufacturing towards the production of parachutes, ropes, tents, and other military materiel. At the same time, silk also became incredibly rare because it had previously been mostly imported from Japan. Now, nylons that had been manufactured before the ban could still be sold in stores, but unsurprisingly, these very quickly ran out, and a burgeoning black market grew up, with the price of one pair of nylons skyrocketing to nearly $20, more than $450 today. And indeed, in comic strips, cartoons, and other media of the period, as well as for many decades afterwards, you'll often come across a recurring joke, a meme, if you will, about servicemen gifting women either a pair of nylon stockings or a chocolate bar or both, things that were heavily rationed and coveted during the Second World War.
3 lipsticks, 3 pair of nylon stockings.
Shoot, a fella could have a pretty good weekend in Vegas with all that stuff.
Now, you might think that the ban on nylons would put women off wearing hosiery altogether, but that's not really the case. See, the sensibilities of the time were not quite ready for women to go around bare-legged, plus wartime propaganda encouraged people to keep up pre-war standards of dress in order to keep up morale. Indeed, wearing makeup, especially lipstick, was seen as an act of defiance against Nazi Germany, which enforced a more naturalistic rural folk aesthetic for women. And if that seems a little bit absurd, it actually got a lot worse as the Second World War gave way to the Cold War. This is 11 Steps to Survival, published by the Canada Emergency Measures Organization in the 1960s, and among the essential items it recommends to pack in a home fallout shelter is women's basic cosmetics, which other nuclear survival guides I've found explain was to help keep up morale. Right. Now, many women, especially those who took up industrial jobs in factories, shipyards, and the like, got around the stocking shortage by wearing trousers, which had the added advantage of being more durable and less likely to get caught in machinery. Meanwhile, women who still wore skirts either mended and wore their existing stockings for a lot longer than they normally would have, or took to simulating hosiery by painting it on. At first, this was done in a homebrew, make-do-and-mend fashion, with women using various substances including coffee, tea, walnut juice, cocoa powder, and even gravy browning to stain their legs, and eyeliner pencil to simulate the seam running up the back. The latter task was quite difficult to convincingly accomplish on your own, but women who didn't have a friend to help them out got around this problem by improvising applicators for materials like bicycle clips and screwdriver handles. However, as you can imagine, these homebrew stockings weren't always that convincing and didn't really stand up well to rain or other regular wear and tear. Thankfully, the cosmetics industry quickly stepped in to fill this gap in the market by producing dozens of varieties of so-called liquid stockings. Popular brands included Ann Barton's leg makeup, Harriet Hubbard Ayer stocking lotion, Patrick's leg art, Cosmetic House's leg charm, Helena Rubinstein's leg stick, Lanbois Incorporated leg silk, Minor silk stockings, Elizabeth Arden's Velva leg, La Jacques High Brown, Max Factor's pancake makeup, Sultona liquid stick stockings, Nina makeup, and Sun Valley Tan stocking stick. These came in a variety of forms, including rub-on or spray-on liquids and lotions, or solid bars, were often offered in multiple shades to match the wearer's skin tone, and contain an average of 24 pairs of stockings per bottle or bar. Predictably, these products were heavily marketed along patriotic lines, with one common slogan reading, "Paint a limb to save silk." Now, unfortunately, I haven't been able to find very much information about this particular product or the company that produced it, but generally speaking, these formulations contained latex as a binder and adhesive, glycerin to prevent flaking, zinc oxide for more even cover, and talcum powder to give them the sheen of genuine nylons. Despite these improvements, however, the application process was rather arduous. You had to shave your legs or use depilatory cream a full day before, then use pumice or a mitt to exfoliate the skin, since any flaking would ruin the illusion. Then, after applying the liquid stocking product with a cloth, stick, or your hand, you waited for it to dry, wiped off the excess, and, in certain cases, buffed the finish or dusted it with a special silken powder to further enhance the nylon sheet. Quite the ordeal to have to go through every single day, especially in wartime. And if all that was a little too overwhelming, department stores and beauty parlors began offering leg bars that could apply a so-called glamour hose in around 15 minutes and for $1, around $23 today, per leg. Among the first of these was the Bare Leg Bar, launched in June 1942 by cosmetics magnate Helena Rubinstein on Fifth Avenue in New York. Now, as soon as the war ended in September 1945, DuPont switched its manufacturing back to the production of silk stockings and announced that it would be able to produce up to 360 million pairs per year. Unfortunately, this proved to be grossly optimistic, and as millions of women, desperate to resume wearing real stockings queued up at stores, they found stocks quickly depleted and became very angry, leading to a number of literal riots that persisted until production caught up to demand in 1946. Now, of course, with actual nylon stockings readily available again, the market for liquid stockings quickly evaporated, leaving products like these as fascinating relics of wartime rationing and the make, do, and mend attitude. Now, of course, there are many other stories of how people managed to stay fashionable despite wartime rationing, all of which are rather beyond the scope of this video. However, if you are interested in the subject, I would highly recommend the book Fashion on the Ration by Julie Summers, which accompanied a fantastic exhibit at the Imperial War Museum in London that I was lucky enough to see in person back in 2015. Unfortunately, my own copy is currently out on loan to a friend, otherwise I probably would have included it in my list of favorite books, but you can easily find it on Amazon. And if you want to learn more about other fascinating devices that were greatly affected by wartime as well as post-war conditions, please check out my previous videos on Kodak home developing kits and Japanese hit miniature cameras. Links in the description. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. A little bit different from my typical fare. I'd heard about this wartime trend of painting on fake stockings quite a while ago, and so when I finally found this example of this type of makeup, I knew that I had to cover it for this channel. Hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you next time in another video where we'll look at yet more fascinating devices, including cosmetics, just like these. Until then, I'm Jean Messier from Our Own Devices. Have a great day.